Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Cureton, Senior Journalist from XR Today. Always bring you the latest and greatest from the VR, AR and XR industries. Today we're hosting the Big News Show. This is where we get to talk about all the latest topics taking place across the industry. And today we have on Jay Latta, we have Kevin O'Donovan and Amy Peck. It's our fantastic four. We've got all set up, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Thanks so much for joining today, guys. Where are you all coming from?
I'm currently in Munich. Before I travel then to Rome, then to Lisbon. We'll see if it takes place. So right now in some kind of comfortable time zone.
Okay. How about you, Amy? You're over there in Vienna, is that correct?
I'm in Vienna for AWE, and it's also not 4 a.m. for me, which is what it usually is.
Rock on. Kevin, how about you?
I'm here in home office on the sunny Côte d'Azur.
Lovely.
Kevin always wins that contest.
Someone's got to live here.
It's like, I'm in Nice. Lovely. So yeah, I'm back here in Manchester as always. Moved all the way from London up to Manchester, so now going to enjoy the north for a bit. So yeah, we're going to jump into today's topics. We've got a lot to speak about today. We're going to look at, firstly, VR as an empathic tool for first aid training. And this is from Warpin Reality, who has created this new trainee thing for first aid, and has been working also with the Swedish Red Cross. And so for us, this is quite an interesting topic. Now, after reading this, I wanted to open up the floor for about this particular topic. Have you seen any situations where XR has increased empathy among trainers? Jay, I'm going to open the floor for you.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, in all kind of medical use cases, I mean, the better you are as medical staff, the more distant you are, because you cannot take all of this. So simply being reminded, especially when you deal with children, that this one training set was about to switch the positions, that you as some doctor can experience this not empathetic guy and simply being reminded how rude it can be. So this is one of the use cases that I've seen. It was quite impressive. There was in Poland, in Auschwitz, a use case to display, to let the people experience how scary this situation was. So they've made all of this concentration camp in virtual reality. You've seen nothing, just the empty halls and so on, but you heard sound. So everything was a bit darkish, and the mood, it was so depressing. So this might be a very interesting thing simply to explain people from the historical context. I've seen one use case about child soldiers in Africa, simply to walk in someone else's shoes so that they can understand, that people can relate to it. Why is it how it was? It's never to justify it, just to explain. And XR is in general a very powerful toolkit to explain afterwards, and with these lessons learned, even to prepare not to jump into this. There is this one, Courtney Harding. She makes 360 video. It's not really VR. Some people do not like 360 video. And she makes these use cases, for example, to train street workers about what to pay attention to, how to react under stress situations. So XR is, in my opinion, for empathy, for getting back empathy, one of the most important tools.
Yeah, defo. Kevin, Amy, how about you?
As Jay said, I suppose the whole thing with virtual reality, we have study after study, and whether it's for empathy or knowledge retention or just kind of getting people to understand what it is to be in that situation for whatever reason, right? It's immersive. So we've all done first aid trainings, inside in a classroom with someone standing in front with a dummy telling you what to do and whatever. It's a different thing if you're in a restaurant and somebody's choking in front of you, right? It's just your reactions, right? It's like, oh my God, this is not like the training course. So VR, immersive training, whatever, just allows us to practice for, in some places, scary things, or have more empathy to people or understand more like what it was really like to be somewhere or potentially in a situation. So yeah, we just see more and more studies coming out saying I learned more, I retained more, it made me think more. It made me, when the real thing happened in the real world, I was better prepared. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this as more and more gadgets come out and, more accessible to people, be that the Quest 3, the Vision Pro, whatever, right? I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, I'm a big fan of Emma Ritterstedt and Warpin. They've been doing some really good work. Emma's the co-founder of Warpin Studios. And, VR has been called the empathy machine. So the concept of kind of creating empathy using VR is not new. I do find it interesting that we, with all of the capabilities, and as Kevin pointed out, we have reams of data on the efficacy of this technology, that we're just not further along in deploying this technology. You're seeing great use cases, you're seeing great utility, you're seeing great ROI. So I think that the bigger picture is that we're still kind of waiting for the hardware to become manageable, to be able to get these devices up on the network. So I don't think we can even argue about the benefits of VR. I think we know what those are. I think the bigger challenge is, especially when you look at the juxtaposition of all the hype that was around the metaverse and VR when Meta changed their name. And then all of a sudden, OpenAI releases ChatGPT, and suddenly everybody's using it. And so I think the bigger issue is, how do we really make it easy to bring VR into your day-to-day life, whether it's AR or VR? Because we're not really going to scale broadly until it's a really simple experience, as much as firing up an app on your mobile device. And I know that was a left turn, but that to me, that's the kind of, the overarching issue. The technology is great, right? So how do we make it easier?
Amy,
sorry.
You've said something very important. This relation towards ChatGPT. So this current new development, this sometimes even overhyped, will enable us as well for all of these, not just training situations, but augmentation on demand. So it's not just about to train it, to learn about it, but you might even be able, during your session with a customer, with whomever you need to be a little bit more empathetic, that it's simply in your AR glasses, it starts to remind you, hey, horse, slow down.
The jerkometer on your watch.
Exactly, yeah. That my watch immediately starts like, oh, your heart pressure goes up.
Yours is going to be going off all day. Let's just be realistic. Come on now. You're going to draw a breath and it's going to go,
So two quick ones. Just on ChatGPT, I'm seeing more and more companies going, whoa, hang on a second. Half our staff are using this thing. We're putting confidential information into the big scary cloud in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
Let's back off a second, right? So that's one thing. We're not there with VR yet. We're not that mass adoption. But to Amy's point, what I'm seeing a lot in energy industry, various places, would be, hey, this technology is really cool. Mm-hmm. But every time we create a training, we're kind of taking a snapshot in time, and it's a 6-month project, and then it's kind of out of date and whatever. So if we can get to this digital twin world and we can do a real time, blah, blah, that works. But to Amy's point, I need to integrate it into my existing processes. Can't be a standalone thing. There's too much friction. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing a lot of stuff get better and whatever, but it's like training certification. In oil and gas right now, they have some brilliant VR training, but it doesn't qualify you for any certificate that gets you the insurance thing to say, I can do this job. So there's a lot of process, procedure, and you can whinge and moan that they're old processes, but they're there. They need to evolve as well. Otherwise, it's back to this is great technology, but I just can't use it in my day job.
Kevin, the thing is, especially in corporates, they do not want to use these tools in this way how you suggest. I mean, when you are joining a larger corporate, you will get internal trainings. These internal trainings keep you busy. They are not to qualify you for anything, because then they would just train you and you can leave and go somewhere else. So it's whenever I've joined a company, I got a lot of internal, completely useless trainings. I mean, for what do I need an internal, I don't want to say the client, paper of, it's bullshit, it's rubbish. Yeah, no, not now, it's still okay. So here it's simply, you've mentioned processes. So all of these tools should not be part of a process. The process is an API. It might, let's say, give them through their individual tools access while you are working for this company to internal resources to create something. But workforce augmentation, it will be your personal device that creates this, because this personal device knows you better than any kind of HR idiot. It is really about how fast do you learn, what do you need, how advanced are you, where are your legs. So really this kind of running on your personal device and helping you to become better, not the company.
I want to go back to I think we should all have t-shirts for VR that says, "Where are your legs?" Because that is a fundamental problem in VR.
Well, in in whatever horizons you have legs now. But Jay, if I may, I agree with you, right? And the way the technology is going, and we've seen with the iPhone, and the way people said, oh, well, we can't integrate this into our processes and whatever. But to Amy's point, it's like one of the best things that happened for like iPhones and tablets was that the IT department could suddenly figure out they could manage it. Right. And you'd say, what does that hell has that got to do with whatever? But cybersecurity. In the oil and gas or energy industry today, I can go off and do some training and I can become as good as anybody, fixing a wind turbine, offshore facilities, whatever. If I don't have a particular piece of paper from a certified training provider, if I go out in that boat and something happens and in 6 months' time the insurance company goes, he's not certified.
Exactly.
Doomed. So, yes. so right or wrong, that has to change as well, right? They're starting, but that's a particular use case, right? But it's
the right use case, because in healthcare you have the same. I mean, if you are a janitor and just make a course that is not approved, and then you perform a brain surgery, so it really needs, how I've mentioned, it's a mixture of these trainings, of lifelong learning, of re-educating, learn, unlearn, and relearn. And this is only it needs to be adapted on you, because we have different speeds of learning. So True. The company provides the source data. They provide the APIs via this certification authority, whatever, and your device makes out of it the best thing that fits into this criteria.
But we can also, we've done trainings. We work on a lot of projects where you actually bake in the outcomes, so effectively the certification, just by virtue of the fact that you went through, because you can't move through the experience unless you get everything done correctly. And then we're able to measure that. The problem also is LMS systems, when you use XAPI, the amount of data that you can actually pull versus the amount of data you have, there's a chasm, right? Because you can only stuff so much data into the LMS system, because it's sort of, a lot of these are kind of these binary, or they've got 3 or 4 or 5 different levels. Right. And so, the whole system needs to kind of be updated. So it does go back to IT and the fact that once we had mobile device management for, devices, right, for our phones and our tablets, we were able to bring those, into work. And we're still there's still a number of things on a technical front that we need to address with these, these XR devices.
And then the board member, the CEO, CTO sits with his tablet or smartphone in the board meeting and manages his fucking Excel sheets.
No, he's deleting, photographs of things he shouldn't be doing that someone just sent him.
He sends
there.
he sends the Excel via fax to his CFO. Yes. Okay. Next topic.
Fax?
Yeah.
Germany.
You guys raised some interesting points. Like, what's the long game for this whole thing? For example, do we start incorporating attention tracking technologies so that way we can get people to qualify for the certification course? Or do we show the competencies in a test afterwards? These are things that they'd have to think about. But what's the whole purpose of it? Is it just to do our job better, teach us soft skills like with things that, companies like Moth and Flame are doing or Warpin? Or do we actually take this into a solid part of the curriculum and then move it from there? But we have these benchmarks, these measurable things that we can use in order to qualify for that certification. So it's going to be interesting how that works out in the future.
We are always concerned about everything, especially in Europe. We are so scared of the whole life. We don't do anything like this. I mean, it's fun when Macron decides that France should be the leading super brain for AI. I can't imagine this. Or when Nadella tells the German chancellor that Germany has the superpower to become an AI leading yada yada. No, because we are scared. We need to check. Amy is gone. We need to check, for example, even if I do not like the Chinese approach, what they are doing, because they are even massively using AI machine vision to observe, are you bored? Are you still with your mind working? How do you learn? How do you perform? Why is this important? Because the Chinese started to position themselves into all kind of standardization gremia. So more or less, sooner or later, there will become a standard and you will be overrun. So my recommendation on everyone who plays with this is don't bullshit. Don't make some kind of orchid projects that then disappear again. Make stuff. If you don't know what to do with it, make it public. Share ideas. Only through this open innovation, we can find being open-minded. We can find out what else can we do with it. And after we've set up this framework, how useful it might be, then we can set up restrictions. Okay, but this data has to be deleted immediately. This data has to be simply forwarded to you. It's your property. This data and so on. This is as well one of the major problems with Meta. They are intransparent with data and therefore they are being kicked into their ass. I mean, they simply have this branding evil, period.
Yeah, you raised some interesting questions about that because that was actually our next topic. So we're going to dig into that one. And I think it's going to be no holds barred, I would assume. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at the whole issues that are taking place with Meta these days. They got into the historic fines from the European Union. And, they had to deal with, the acquisition of Within Unlimited. Also, there's lots and lots of different issues surrounding their privacy policies, things of that nature. So what's going on with Meta? Like, I have to do this. What's going on with Meta these days? And what do you think is the latest going on with this, this campaign to conquer that, was specifically put in the newspapers?
Kevin, do you want to start?
I will.
Go for it, Kevin. It's all you.
For a fair and balanced approach by a TV station that will remain nameless. In some ways, it's not that I feel sorry for Meta. I'm not sure they set out, or Facebook, years ago, to be the evil empire. And I'm not sure they are the evil empire. I think they've been a victim of their own success. And what I mean by that is that they set up with a way of doing things and it's an ad data driven thing. You are the product, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people we say, oh, the regulators didn't spot it, or Jay, to your point, oh, we didn't think about that at the time. We didn't. No one did, because it was all new and we didn't know how it was going to play out. So I think a lot of the stuff that's playing out now is kind of, in some ways, laws of unintended consequences. Now, I'm not saying they're blameless, right? The algorithms are built in a way to get eyeballs, and eyeballs sells ads, and ads is the cash cow, and blah, blah. So human nature hasn't changed, right? And whatever. That's just the way it is. And I think now that legislators and people are kind of copping on to the fact that, oh, hang on a second, these are the consequences we're now seeing. And it's like anything, we're going, well, we're not sure what's going to happen with VR, the metaverse in the future. So let's put the brakes on. And Jay, to your point, that slows down innovation. And sometimes we make the wrong decisions because we don't know all the answers, but it gets votes and whatever. So there's a whole thing around. The particular story that you spoke about was that obviously they've been sued by a company that said you pulled our app and whatever. Reading, and again, just reading what's on the thing, it seems that this app, they were also going to do it on Apple and on Pico, and then Meta pulled the plug in terms of, I don't know, was there exclusivity or non-ex? I don't know, whatever, right? Business, whatever. So you turn around and you go, well, the big guys have to be stopped from getting bigger, and there's a valid point to that. And yet we all work with many startups across the globe, and their sole exit strategy is to get bought by someone. So then you get back into that. Well, who will we allow buy you? And then that becomes another rat hole. So again, the technology is the easy bit, but it's the rules have changed. And in fairness to the EU, rightly or wrongly, they're probably being seen as kind of the cop in the room right now, and throwing roadblocks up in front of people, rightly or wrongly.
You've said many really cool things. One of the last, no, really, it's from approach of Meta. They've not expected to become, I even don't think they wanted to be evil. Even if Zach is a very special person. Your last comment, startups being bought and so on. This is exactly why when I'm as an investor, as an advisor, I do not interact with startups where their only agenda is, I want to grow to be bought. I'm not interested into this shit because they deliver just nonsense. But this is just a side thing. The current part of this whole activism against Meta is just pure hysteric because they are not transparent. Because even right now, due to the huge layoffs 2022, 2023, by firing your whole ethics team and so on, it's unlucky. In these times, it should not be just about profitability. And their business is simply the users are their profit. This is how they make money. And the people simply do not want to, or they want to contribute on it. Of course, several of them would simply give you all the data, even how they behave in the bedroom, if they are being compensated equally into this. So here it's simply this lack of misunderstanding between Meta, where do we want to go, how do we want to continue, being completely intransparent. The others who want still to use these products, but somehow it became a little bit slimy and what's in for me. Because come on, the benefit of WhatsApp, of Instagram and so, it sucks meanwhile. So what is the next thing? And because they are standing still at one point and not really developing, their pullback from all of these metaverse activities and so on. So currently, of course, especially in Brussels, they see we can be a bit mean without being called whatever. So they misuse it as well. It's a cheap trick to show, it's what we call in Germany alibi actionism. Things that are not really necessary, but we do it because we can.
Yeah, you raised some really interesting points about that. And my whole thing that I've been thinking about, I'll share more thoughts with you and I'll let Amy take the floor for that. But Meta chose to kind of be the sacrificial lamb in this whole metaverse, exploration. And I think that what we see happening with Meta could happen to any company. And I think that even more so, they're the ones, because they want to develop the metaverse infrastructure, they're going to have to go through the legal hoops in order for that to happen. And the mistakes they make are empirical evidence to all the other companies to say, okay, this is what we should do, this is what we should not do. And that's really just, that's the burden they've got to bear. If they want to develop this metaverse, infrastructure, they've got to have Nick Clegg out there every day, breaking his back to try to make sure that this whole process goes, according to plan, and that they also get checked when they need to get checked.
I think one additional thought on this is, and it might fit into any kind of technology. I'm a huge fan of tech optimism. The thing is, how Kevin mentioned, we are somehow as humans not developed. Our mindset is stuck in the 1400s, whatever, when we've been burning witches. This is how we still behave. We have never catched up with technology. So we are still stuck in this revenge, eye for an eye, yada, yada, whatever, and we do not look forward. We do not see the benefit in technology. And therefore we talk shit. Therefore we develop products who are exploiting us. Therefore we are just oriented into what's in for me. My 2 cents. Amy.
We could, in theory, there's this great technology called virtual reality that could train us to be better humans. We just could get behind it.
Exactly. Empathy via VR. Yes.
I do think it's interesting, though, when you think about, you mentioned that some corporates are shutting down the use of like ChatGPT, that it's interesting how very quickly we're kind of ready to hand over the heavy lifting of research and doing kind of the hard work of coming up with an understanding of information, that we're really willing to give it over to AI, which, as we know, is not a perfect animal. And, hallucinations aside, isn't necessarily returning, the data and the research that we necessarily want or need, but we're very willing to just sort of say, oh, look, like ChatGPT gave me all this research on this thing, and so I'm going to use this as the basis for how I move forward. And that's a lot of trust that we're putting into that. And it's sort of the same issue. It's like we want to fire at Meta. We want to look at the nefarious possibilities around OpenAI. But the fundamental problem is that we are being lazy we all need to engage in this conversation, right? It's not just up to Nick Clegg and Meta to come up with the guardrails, or regulators, frankly. It's up to all of us. GDPR didn't happen until we really, as consumers, started saying, hey, wait a minute, this is getting out of control, right? We need some help. But we need to have an opinion, right? We all need to engage. We need to start not immediately trusting everything that OpenAI spits back out at us, not immediately trusting that the regulators are equipped to deal with this barrage of technology coming at us. So we need to make a plan and have an opinion about, but I like your point, Jay, is that, we're behaving, just look at world politics right now, right? We're in, multiple very active wars, and we're, as humans, we're just not doing a good job. And technology could actually help us, but now we're piling that on as like another one of the problems we have to overcome. Let's harness the technology and point it at some of these issues that are very human in nature that technology can actually help with. But we have to harness it, right? We can't just give over control to technology. Technology only works when we are using it, not when we are just sort of, passive observers of all of this tech.
You guys raised a very interesting point. So we talk about human nature and the whole technological debate. And one of the things that I think about is sometimes humans have to get it together too, For example, the biggest metaverse platform out there, bar none, is Roblox. It's a highly centralized metaverse platform. Decentraland, the Sandbox, a lot of the other, decentralized technologies that would provide people with more autonomy over their data are seen as fringe elements now. And this is after they've been on, in the forefront for years now. So one of the things I think there's a social responsibility for a lot of companies to understand how these technologies work and how they can actually use them. If they have problems with Meta, rather than heaping fines on them, they need to say, okay, we have alternatives to Meta and that we can explore them for our businesses as well as the individual users. And we have all these companies like Lamina One and a few others who are creating blockchain technologies that allow people to do that. This is when we have the informed consent. Now, for example, everyone here is more than likely using Windows for their laptops. How does that come about? No, okay, good.
I'm still like, I'm in another, I'm Apple, but I love, like, I'm literally on my phone now and I'm about to join again on my Mac, and it's going to be seamless when we switch over. So, we're paying the price for that.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm on Linux. I'm the outlier here. But, the thing is that when we look at the majority of the world, like the market share, roughly 90% is about Windows. There's a sliver, more or less 15%, Mac, depending on what system you're using. And then there's that one little guy that's using Linux. So it's about kind of how are the customers actually keeping up with this? Do they just wait for a headline to come out and then show indignation? Or do they actually have an active participatory role in shaping these technologies as they come out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I would like to see if we could trust some entity to do this, I'd like to see these fines not just be fines, right? Because now you're taking money out of R&D budgets to actually do the things we need them to do. But start looking at maybe standards bodies or ways that we can start to manage these data flows, right? And companies can do this now, right? They can sort of geofence, servers and data farms and data centers and data lakes to be in locations where they're trusted, right? So we have this technology out there. It's expensive. And we, again, as individuals, even as employees, we can start to have an opinion about, how we solve some of these challenges. And I know a lot of people at Meta, and Meta is a great target for everyone because Meta's done some things in the past that, people are worried about. But, now that we know, eyes wide open, they're doing, a lot to change their ways, right? They haven't changed their financial model necessarily. Our data is still their product. But if we got together and said, look, we have a solution for this, right? We're allowing the fox in the hen house to figure out how to solve the problem while they still have a very big appetite for the hens. So let's just be part of the conversation and be part of the solution and stop whining about everything.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll go back on an old refrain of mine. The technology is the easy bit, and it does come back to human nature.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree that all of us have, in some ways, a responsibility to be a bit more informed about whatever. I suppose the feature is that takes time and effort. And most people go, I have other things to worry about or whatever. And even in companies, like a lot of the crowd I work with various industries right now, there's a lot of technology fatigue. They're like, Kev, go away. I can't keep up. Right? There's too many things.
Yeah.
So I want someone to tell me. I want someone to send me the answer. I just don't have time. Someone I trust, and trust is one of these things that look at what's going on in the world today. People trust different points of view. They trust whatever. So technology is the easy bit, and I can you imagine if we could come up, or the local Martian Defense Force drops in and goes, here's a very unbiased AI that will solve all your issues. Some people mightn't like the answers on any topic because we are irrational beings. And, I'm not sure how we fix that. Technology is the easy bit, but us humans complicate things. And it's back to making it for Windows. Why do I use Windows? I grew up with Windows. I grew up with OS 2, actually, much better.
Yeah, one of the things to think about, we talk a little bit about people and making decisions. And of course, that definitely leads us into our last conversation for today. So we had Unity's CEO, so it's John Riccitiello, I think if I pronounced that correctly. So he's actually resigned over the price structure row. And essentially, this is going to be a very difficult thing for Unity to climb back out of. And they were seen as like the number one platform for developing, real-time 3D content and get, one of the best gaming engines out there. Now they have to climb back out. And of course, Epic Games is taking advantage of that. Now, what do you think about this whole future of Unity? Do you think that they're going to sort out the change, the pricing structure? Do you think they're going to recover their reputation? I guess something's telling me to go towards Jay on this one because he's got a lot to say on that.
He's definitely got an opinion on this.
Look, Unity has some advantages. Everyone knows this. They've been focused on mobile devices, while Unreal was more this hardcore yada yada whatever. But who wants to carry a gaming PC with yourself when you are doing something, right? So it's far easier to go from mobile into high performance than from high performance into mobile. I mean, a Porsche can't build a van either, so nah. Unity, like every other company, we are profit oriented. We are not oriented towards pleasing the stakeholders. It's about shareholder orientation. So of course, if there is a company and is successful with something, they start thinking about how to increase the profit, how to secure their market shares. So it was a logical step simply to think about it. I mean, you can compare it to what BMW is doing, charging you a monthly fee for seat heating. I mean, this is bullshit either, right? So simply developing new profitability methods, and of course as well somehow to lock you into their ecosystem. It's really less about products. It's more about these fucking services. You can't buy anything. I mean, I'm waiting for the dishwasher that does not run without a cloud. It's messed up because everyone is just thinking about how to make crap loads of money. This needs to somehow go step back. Unity, still a great platform, still great products. They are extremely active, not just in these areas where we hear about it. They are really all over. I mean, they are creating 3D backends for automotive, where you in your car configurator, where you in the past you had to make several independent data platforms for your car configurator, for the R&D, and so on and so on. Now with their technology as a 3D backend, you have just one standard, and it's being used across the whole value chain. So of course they are more set. It was like with the whole communication of Meta and the activities from Meta, it was unlucky. They should have thought a little bit earlier about the possible impact and not just see the facts and figures and the numbers and then shit hits the fan, right?
Or just engage the community. I'm a huge fan of Unity and just the ethos of Unity. Like Unity was born with, independent developers, right? And they made it the simplest path to be able to kind of build it once and deploy it across, different services and different platforms. And so, I think it kind of stems from them, their IPO. I think all of their problems started with the IPO. And maybe they IPO'd too early. I mean, that could have been it. I mean, it's the level of standards. They were still, even as a big company, they still had this kind of scrappy startup ethos to them, right? And then all of a sudden, now they're this grown-up company having to, meet all of the requirements of being a publicly traded company. I think that was challenging and stressful, and just from a company culture standpoint, very difficult to navigate. I think they know the ad business really well, and that has been their primary form of revenue. And so I think they're maybe over-indexing a little bit on that. But I think that I know that they will recover, because I think as developers, they've had to unfortunately pick a pony, right? So you've either gone with Unreal or you've gone with Unity for the most part, and especially where it comes to XR. And they're both really, really good. And so, like Unity is better at some things and Unreal is better at others. But I think a collaborative approach to the pricing and talking to some of their core developers who have, multiple titles with them and who've been working with them for a long time to figure out what would have been an equitable solution, because nobody wants Unity to go under, right? That doesn't help anybody. I do think that they are kowtowing too much to the analysts, because the analysts, you look at the analysts are focused on the games industry, right? So they're seeing kind of the starry-eyed billion-dollar games industry. They're not really looking at this from this 3D lens, right, of what it means to Web3 and what Unity could mean for digital twins, right? And they're doing a ton of work on digital twins. It's gone kind of quiet because they're not really known for it. And so if everyone would just back the F off and let them build out some products, and they, look, frankly, the stock's already kind of in the toilet. So let it languish, right? I know that's not a good look for a publicly traded company, but focus on the product. Become the de facto, one of the two, but the de facto digital twin company. Build out that architecture to be able, again, to deploy seamlessly, build out those toolkits. Digital twin for me is the absolute anchor technology for every single company going forward, not just with physical space, but for modeling and simulation. I mean, there's a plethora of use cases, and I know, both Jay and Kevin can speak to that as well on the industrial front. So, I think everyone should just leave them alone for a bit, let them, get their skis back under them. They will survive. I hope they will survive. Even Epic, I think for Epic, Unreal theoretically is like the little engine that could, compared to the revenue they're making from the Epic Games side of the house. And even they're having some challenges. So instead of focusing on their potential demise and failures, let's look at ways collaboratively as their customers and their clients to figure out how to buoy them. What are the business models that are going to work? And the business models have to change anyway. So let's all be part of that conversation. I feel like a lot of everything that we talk about a lot from week to week comes down to a level of responsibility that we as individuals and as representatives of client companies aren't really taking responsibility for.
I really love what you've said. Sorry, Kevin. The problem started with IPO, because
Absolutely.
then you are giving your responsibility to someone else. These shareholders are the bitches that simply are slapping you. We need money. And this is where it becomes, your major thing. So the CFO becomes then the major head in the company. The CEO is not the visionary anymore. He's just the mascot. And when they say something wrong, the stocks go down. Then you have to fire 10,000 people. It's a huge shit show. All of these IPOs, whenever a company went into this, they had this huge peak until they balanced everything. And when you see how careful companies then become, how boring they become, because they have to pay attention to what I'm saying, that my stocks do not crash. They are becoming less innovative. I hate it.
It's
Kevin.
too bad. Yeah, it's too bad.
So outside looking in, Unity, brilliant technology. Key player in the industry. Half the people in the world got their skills on using Unity, blah, blah, blah. They made a business decision. They went IPO for right or wrong. You have the analysts going, I think their fundamentals are crap, and they couldn't care less, but they just wanted to make 20% next week. So they had to try and look at, okay, well, how do we break even, right? Because they were whatever. They've made some decisions. Their technology is being used in many industries, but the net is they're not a charity, and they have cut some people in their industry teams across the globe because whatever, right? They cut their cloth, they had layoffs and whatever. They were dead right to look at, well, how do we monetize this some way? But Jay, they weren't unlucky in the way they did it. That was pretty poor, right? Like the minute they announced it, there were some basic questions that people asked, and there was like, that's a good point. They didn't game it out, or they didn't seem to.
I tried to be diplomatic.
No, they can recover. Look, it was poor, right? So they got hammered, and will they get back the trust? Back to Amy's point, it's kind of like, if you're kind of invested in Unity, you're invested in Unity. The technology hasn't got crap. There's a change in management, blah blah blah, but they have to get some bit of value back for what they're doing. But so I think they'll be around. But yeah, people need to back off a small bit. But hey, if you have the shareholders and analysts beating you up, it's a tough world out there, like, but
and you don't just like port to Unreal. It's a
it ain't
rebuild, right?
It ain't hit return. But it's like in terms of a way to communicate a change in strategy, 1 out of 10.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm voting for them. I'm really hoping that they right the ship, and that the developers who have stayed with them so long, without dealing from a position of anger, right? Because everybody's human here. Everybody makes mistakes. They just made a very loud and very public one. Start looking at ways that they can work together and help each other. Because, like, to your point, Kevin, they are not a charity, and maybe there's a business model out there for sure that will work. That is, tranched in some way, whether it's based on different revenue markers. The pro licenses is the way that they're going to make money, right? As Unity, right? So how do we do that? And look, people have been enjoying the free Unity for a very long time.
That's the problem.
So everyone has to take a step forward. We can't all just be gasping and saying, "Oh my God, they want to be profitable." Like, that's absurd. So let's come to the table and figure it out. Come up with some ideas.
Well, like, you see some of the stuff over the last couple of years. Unity need to add more features and blah blah blah. And fine, why? But like, that costs money, right?
By the way, you're not using all the features they have now.
But
look, technology. I mean, they have brilliant. I'm sorry, but they have brilliant technology. So does Unreal.
If Unity had started out with a business model where we take 2% or whatever percent of your sales over blah blah blah, from day one, nobody would have batted an eyelid, right? And everyone would have put over. It was just the way it was. The strategy is, well, the direction of the strategy was in my opinion, was the right one. They got to get their share, but how they did it was like, Anyway, and hopefully they'll be around for the next 10 years to get it back. But it's like, anyway.
Yeah, there was a issue about like the pirated software, for example. Like, say, for instance, you put out a title, and then all of a sudden someone pirates it or puts illegal copies on. That's still going to get charged to you. So you're basically picking up the tab for an entire, group of people you have no idea who are linked to like what you've created, and you're putting the bill for that. And so for a lot of this, with the pricing structure, I thought that it kind of reminded me of like a podcast I was listening to. So imagine you were to set sail from London or from wherever port's closest to you, and you try to make it to the new world, or you try to make it to a new part of the world. Any incremental change that you make, even if you're off by a single degree, can create intended consequences that are massive for you. So you can either end up in New York City or you can end up in Florida, depending on exactly like how accurate and precise that you are when it comes to these types of things. So for me, I think it was important that Unity actually kind of thought that one out a little bit more. So that way, because you have so many types of industries working with this technology, that was the thing that I think that they should have considered when they created that pricing structure change. However, I do have confidence that they'll come back and actually bring that, under control, and then communicate effectively, because Meta has to go through this as well. And Meta has some kind of cock up that they've got to deal with. They've got their media teams all over it, and they say, okay, sorry, we're listening to you, so we're going to do these things. And then they have to stick by it. And I think that's how they're going to come out of this. But it's okay to make mistakes. I think it's important that we do.
Sure, but the people have to stop complaining that they've landed in Miami, right?
That too, yeah, definitely. But yeah.
You're like, oh no.
Never
Whether
again.
you like Miami or not, right?
No. Miami and LA are the two places where I say I don't get them. I'm not surfer enough. I don't get them.
You're not surfer enough.
Look, Unity are not going to go away. It'd be terrible for everybody if they did.
Yeah.
And that technology, whatever. But yeah, it's just as to how they didn't game out some of the basics of that stuff is just beyond me.
No pun intended by gaming it out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Where's an AI when you need
They
one?
literally could have run it through a simulation in their game engine.
Yes. The digital twin of the customer, yes.
Look, enough. They seem to be fixing it, so
yeah.
Brilliant.
I've got nothing but love for you, Unity. You will survive.
As I say in South Korea, fighting, jayo. So basically, hopefully they'll get it all together. But lovely, everyone. Thanks so much for your time and attention. I really do appreciate it. Once again, we've been speaking to our fantastic four today. We have Kevin O'Donovan from VRARA, we have Amy Peck from Endeavour XR, and we have Jay Latta from the Fusionists. Once again, my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist from XR Today. And if you like conversations like this from the big XR News channel, please follow us at the XR News hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn. Once again, signing off. Thanks so much for joining us today, and until next time, keep following the news. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.